In this video I'm going to show you how to hold the bow at the heel or the frog. This part of the bow is the heel, the bottom of the bow, and this part is the frog. So you formed your basic bow hold hand shape with your thumb resting against the crease of your second finger, like that. Your thumb's nice and bent, fingers are nice and relaxed, and just slightly spaced out from one another. Now, holding your bow in your left hand, like that, place the bow, the heel of the bow, between the end of your thumb and the crease of your second finger, like that, so that your thumb rests half on the frog and half on the stick of the bow. So half on the frog and half on the stick of the bow, or on the binding, depending on your bow. You may find that the binding goes all the way down to the frog. So the thumb sits diagonally, half on the frog and half on the stick or binding, in that kind of position. So the end of your thumb pad, which is sitting against the bow like that, in a slightly diagonal position. Sometimes people think that their thumb should go here, in this gap, but because it sort of looks like it might be a good place to put the thumb, but it's much more comfortable and easier to control the bow if you put your thumb here. So your second finger will sit opposite your thumb and rests against the stick of the bow at the crease of the top joint there. So it sits opposite the thumb. Now be careful not to wrap your second finger around the bow like that and touch the thumb. It doesn't touch the thumb, it just sits over the bow, just rests in a nice relaxed position over the bow. The other fingers should just be naturally spaced out, so there's a small gap between them, sort of a little finger's width almost between each finger, depending on the size of your fingers. But for me, it's sort of a little finger's width between each finger. And the first finger makes contact with the bow just behind the top joint here, just on the side of the finger, so that the finger's slightly leaning. So that your hand is slightly leaning over onto the first finger. Be careful not to stretch up with your first finger or to try and hook your first finger around the bow. The first finger should just sit on top of the bow. At no point do you need to hold onto the bow with your first finger. So just keep that sitting on top of the bow like that. And again, don't be tempted to stretch it out into an unnatural shape. So just let that sit comfortably on top of the bow. The third finger makes contact with the bow about halfway along the pad of the finger, about here. So it touches about there. And the little finger sits on top of the bow, so rests on its tip. And it doesn't quite sit on the very top, like that. It sits just slightly off to the side. So I'll just show you that from another angle. So the little finger rests just slightly over to the side of the bow, like that. So if you look from the end, if that was a clock face, that would be about sort of 10 o'clock, the angle of your little finger, rather than 12 o'clock, like that. People often try and straighten the little finger when they first hold the bow at the heel. Press down too hard on the little finger. It should be nice and relaxed and just resting comfortably on the bow. Sometimes also people think that perhaps they should be putting the finger on the winder at the end of the bow. And can you see that if I do that, my fingers are very unnaturally spaced out, and that feels very tense, and the muscle here along the side of my hand is now under tension, which we want that muscle to be nice and relaxed. So just check your hand. Feel the muscle here underneath your hand, feel the muscle of your thumb here, and just make sure that they're soft. Try lifting your fingers away from the bow, they should come away easily. So you shouldn't need to use very much effort at all to keep the bow in your hand. All your fingers should be nice and relaxed, your thumb should be soft, so your thumb's bent, but it's still flexible. So your fingers act as a little suspension system for the bow when you're moving it along the string. And it's really important that they're nice and flexible. So you could just do some exercises, this kind of thing, just flexing your fingers and giving your wrist a little wobble, just to make sure that everything is nice and free. So make sure your thumb's nice and loose, and that your fingers are nice and flexible. So now I'm going to move the bow into a horizontal position, and I'm going to just let it rest on my left arm, like this. So I'm going to take my elbow out and away from my body and let the bow rest down on my left arm. So I'm still not having to support the bow with my right hand is still nice and relaxed because the bow is resting on my left arm. And just have a look at the bow hold hand shape with my bow horizontal.